Hello, welcome to episode 12. Red is green, purple is orange, gravity is not real, and 2 plus 2 equals 5. If you are willing to send your children to a school that has that in the curriculum, and if you're willing to pay your tax dollars to support schools who have this in their curriculum, then this episode is not for you. Today we're talking about Dr. John Money from the Johns Hopkins University, and he invented the word gender in the 1950s. He declared that people are born gender neutral and that we have both a biological and a psychological sex, that no one is born with any propensity for either masculine or feminine behavior. Everything is imposed by society. So gender, our psychological sex, is a social construct. We create it by how we treat people. Depending on the environment, a boy could successfully be raised as a girl, and a girl could be successfully raised as a boy, except he had no proof. Now, due to a medical mishap in a family from Winnipeg, who saw him being interviewed on a television show where he was sharing his ideology and his theory, he soon had an opportunity to prove his concept. And a devastated family thought they had a miracle answer. They were devastated because they had 2 twin boys and they were born healthy, but they had phimosis, and that's an abnormality in the opening of the urethra, and doctors recommended circumcision. So they went in at 8 months old. There was an equipment malfunction, and when they went to cauterize a small amount of tissue, due to inaccurate settings, the first twin's entire penis was burnt beyond any functionality. So they took their other son and they took both boys home, devastated. Now, when they heard Money saying that boys could be raised as girls, they went to see him. Now, Money told them male and female are totally separate from biology. It's innate. It's not innate. It's totally imposed by society, and it's a social construct. He said, we will castrate him. We will fashion some female genitalia. Your part is to give him a girl's name. Always dress him in pink, very fluffy, frilly dresses. Give him only dolls to play with, and never tell him he is a boy. He was about 18 months old when they saw Dr. John Money, too young to know. You must raise him as a girl because he is a girl. And everyone in your circle of family and friends must only ever refer to him as a girl and treat him as a girl. So Bruce became Brenda. And there were yearly visits where Money documented details. He interviewed the parents, and then he interviewed the boys alone, spent time with them. And his dad read Joan because he didn't call Bruce Brenda. They changed the names. He said she's doing great, a bit of a tomboy, but is adjusting well and mimics Mom. Now, Money's professional reports were given tremendous attention during the early 60s. Feminism was seeking to gain equality. Women must be the same as men. And over decades, his theory became accepted and treated like doctrine in the medical and the intellectual world. He was, however, a tyrant. And he intimidated scientific journals to not publish anything questioning his writings and his findings or asking for replication of his data. He wrote a book in 1997 using his work with the twins to confirm and support his theory. The very next year, 1998, Brenda, who was Bruce, who'd now become David, blew the cover off the hoax. Not only was he a man, he was married to a woman. He'd adopted 3 stepchildren, and he worked as a janitor at a slaughterhouse. There is an interview about David Reamer's life, Reemer, I believe, on YouTube. He was told for 14 years that he was a girl, but he never ever felt that that was the truth. He was never happy with dolls. He wanted his brother's toys. He wanted to pee standing up, and often did, particularly when he was little. He wanted to play rough. He said, I was never a girl. Now, this is what you need to understand. His feelings were biologically true. He was so boyish and aggressive that kids called him Cave Woman and made fun of him. Everything about myself, he said, was masculine, and I was miserable. His family was miserable. Something that exacerbated it even more was that when the boys were 14, they refused to go back to see money. We will never go back there again, and finally told their parents what had been going on. He had been sexually abusing them for years, forcing them to undress, teaching them how to mimic and then engage in intercourse. He would say, this is what men and women do together. You're a man, you're a woman. He felt that in order to develop normally in terms of their sexuality, all children need to see pornography. So he showed them graphic sexual images. This is the same as what's come out of the WHO and the UN and Dr. Kinsey, which I ran an episode on him earlier. Money was publicly pro-incest. Consequently, that was also part of his experimentation. Well, what was the outcome? Obviously, David was a boy, stayed a boy, wanted to be a boy. His twin died of an opiate overdose, and David committed suicide years later. So my question is, do their deaths mean anything? Money lied. His experiment could not possibly have gone any more cataclysmically wrong than it did. He lied. And it wasn't just a lie, it's an anti-truth. From falsified data that culminated in the death of 2 young men and demolished their family. Trauma doesn't come close to describe what they went through because he wanted to prove that he was right. And it's further resulted in the perversion of an entire culture and the sterilization and mutilation of thousands. John Money's intellectual legacy is a lie. And I only refer to him as doctor in the first statement because I don't think he is one. He died refusing to publicly acknowledge his guilt and retract his statements, which is another indicator of his immorality. There is nothing else. There is no other scientific experimental data to prove the veracity or the validity of his ideology of gender. We have one failure, one lie. The truth is, sex is biological, not psychological. There's an overlap in interests. We certainly don't have any different feelings. So it's not indicative of what is male or female. So a smart person will change their view if they're presented with new information that contradicts their belief. We do this. People can do this. But an indoctrinated person lacks this ability as they're conditioned to dismiss facts. But my question is, what's going on in the school system then? Why won't the schools teach the truth? Why won't the schools teach that there was only one experiment and it had failed? Well, they're interested in indoctrination. They have chosen to accept this ideology. Voltaire said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And we're living in a world in which there's not just a wide diffusion of things that are not true, but we are also living in a world in which there is a suppression of things that are true. My question is this the result of one man's pride? No. We are wallowing in intellectual deceit and rot rather than critical thinking. That's a Dr. Phil quote, but he said it better than I could. Now we have medical institutions labeling babies as AFAB or AMAB, which means assigned female at birth or assigned male at birth, based on a lie. My final few questions, now that you know where it came from and that it doesn't actually exist, what are you going to do about it? Red is not green. 2 + 2 does not equal 5. I don't care if we took pennies out and we're rounding things up or down. Are we going to continue to allow a perverted, sexually abusing, evil, immoral man's failure to shape our curriculum? If you're going to have a discussion with somebody and they don't know who Dr. John Money is, from Johns Hopkins University, I'd have them do a little research first. And then, if they still come up angry and won't have a conversation with you, you know you're dealing with an indoctrinated person. If they're going, I can't believe that this happened, then we have successfully adjusted for the truth. Have a good day.